I'm here to talk in depth about Blue Table Painting's Kickstarter and to explain the numbers and reasoning behind what it is that we're trying to accomplish. So, miniatures battles. If you think about it, the hobby requires miniatures to be assembled and painted one way or another. So the question is, how does that happen? Okay, well, it's a given that there's an X amount of miniatures sold by all these various companies every day. And by the way, I've done some preliminary calculations, and it's a lot. And it's pretty obvious to me after my many, many years of being in this industry that first as a game shop owner, that was, I do believe it was 97 to 2002, something like that. And then starting 2001, I think. And then starting Blue Table Painting in 2004, what happens is people buy their models and they don't bring them to a finished state. Now some do. For some people, the hobby aspect, which is assembling and painting and converting and whatnot, is very satisfactory. But the fact is, there is a demand that's driving this miniatures painting industry. So right now the industry is being served mostly by soloist painters. And in a previous video I explained, there's good versions and bad versions of that, but I'm not going to get into that here. There is a demand for it. My prediction is that I'm going to say at least one person in 5 would have their models assembled and painted if they only knew that that service existed. And right now there's a gap between the demand and where to go to get it. You go online and there's like a zillion of these. How do you pick? And I think a certain percentage of people just give up and they just they find a different way around it, or worse still, they just get out of the hobby. They just look at this huge pile and it just never ends up getting done. And how does that work? A lot of guys, they only have 3 hours a week to go to the game shop and actually play the games. And so if you're going to paint your own army, well, it takes a certain amount of time, and if you divide that between the free time that person has, it doesn't work out very well. And as you know, we have done a lot of footwork to become connected in the industry. We've met a lot of people. We've met them personally. We've talked to them at length. You guys saw all the footwork we did at Gen Con. Literally, the bottoms of our feet were bruised from all of the hoofing it that we did on concrete convention floors. So I know whereof I speak, and there is a growing concern out there that, well, you can't just keep pumping these unpainted miniatures on the market and just keep putting them out there when I think a smaller and smaller percentage is actually painted. So there's a question for you. Out of 100% of all the miniatures that have been sold in the last 10 years, how many of them right now are assembled and painted? What number would you? I'm going to say somewhere between 5 and 10%. It's not a lot. So anyway, how it works now for Blue Table Painting is someone contacts us. They come up with an idea. So the creative end is on the client. And I believe that type of thing will always exist in one form or another. There will be a demand for custom armies. Custom is really a big deal for what it is that we do. But there's another segment where their mind really isn't made up. They don't know what they want. They just see something, well, I guess I'll take that. And so anyway, they contact us. We give them a quote. Once we hammer out the detail, we make effectively a contract. The client submits what's called an instructions sheet, which is what we agree to do for them. And they pay a half-down deposit, And then after so many weeks go by, we manage to get in the models, we assemble, we paint them, and then they get pictures, and then they pay the final payment. And this is a laborious process. It's like we're in the 1790s, and the clothes are being like hand stitched, custom, which is fine, and I'm sure that still goes on. But there's got to be a better way to do it. And so I just want to be clear. Blue Table Painting is a miniatures assembly and painting company, and we do custom work. We have a lot of experts, and we have a whole staff here to support that process. And however, at the same time, right now there's a blank spot, which is okay. So let's say you pick up your 6th edition 40K rulebook, you read through it, you look in the army section, and you're like, oh man, let's pick an army. Let's say orcs. So wow, orcs are the army for me. Now, how are you going to get your orc army? You want to play. So how do you get from here, wanting to play, to actually on the table with this painted army, enjoying the game, enjoying the true, correct experience that you're supposed to have? Now, just let's put this on pause, which is, yes, I realize that for some people, part of the experience is assembling and painting your models. That's great. I begrudge you not that. But right now I'm talking about a different subset of people, the person that doesn't have the equipment and skills in order to get from that point A, wanting to do it, to point B, actually participating in the actual gameplay. So how can they do it? Right now their options are do it themselves or have a custom army made up through a company such as my own. And even Blue Table Painting, we're pioneers. I mean, there was a point in time where I actually had a whiteboard, and I was sitting down with one of my business mentors, and I said, okay, first, I'll take the person's order. Then, stay with me now, it'll go to an assembler, a completely separate person that just assembles models. And then it'll go to a painter, a completely different person yet that paints the models. And then it'll go to digital photography. So, and that was new at the time. That was new in 2005. Yes, I know, I'm not some expert that invented business, but how it was done at the time was you would find a soloist painter, a local or someone on the internet, and you would send off your models and your deposit off to them, and hope they would get back to you. Oh, and boy, there are horror stories. So right now, yes, I'm getting to a point here. Isn't that lovely? Someday I'll get to the point. So right now, there isn't a place that you can go to just buy your army, the third option. That is why we're doing the Kickstarter. Kickstarter allows a company to effectively get capital to create something, and then once it's created, they distribute it, and then they are able to make a profit or whatever it is they do with the remaining amount. So what we want to do is we are raising our hand and saying, we would like to do something that has not yet been done, which is create a repository of pre-made armies where you can actually get online, find the one that you want with a good selection, and actually just get it shipped to you. Ta-da! And this has long been a dream of ours, which is because we keep talking about turnaround time. Well, how quickly can we do an army but maintain that quality? And the fact is, I hate to say it, but people are very naive about what it is we're doing. This takes real labor. We are a real business. My name is on the deed of this building. So And it takes X amount of time. To produce an army, it takes a certain amount of labor. And there's absolutely no way around that labor cost. And you can only get it down so much. So there are benefits to doing it this third way. Okay, do it yourself, custom commission, or what doesn't exist right now, which is select from a reliable source of painted armies with a wide selection. Right now there's eBay, and I would say that is the largest selection right now. It's probably 30 to 50 armies on the block, and we're actually doing pretty good. We have usually 10 to 15 armies on the block at any given time, but we want to vastly increase that. So let's do some of the math. To have that requires capital. You know what? I'm really skipping around here. Well, just bear with me. So for a long time, as we've been discussing, is hey, how can we get the turnaround time down? We're like, well, what if we just had the armies done? Well, the problem with that is I typically only have, well, historically, now we have a lot more, but it was like, well, we'd have 3 or 4 armies, and what are the chances someone will want those particularly? But as if the selection of armies went up, there would be a proportional chance that got increasingly greater that the person who wanted that would be able to just find something that suited them from our selection of pre-made armies. And that is what our Kickstarter is about, is that we're saying if you believe in what we're doing, if you like this model, and then be a part of it. And so we will take the money, and then once the Kickstarter funds, now we can start actually producing a physical, creative, tangible good. We will sit down, we will make up the list of armies that we want to do. I'm hoping the Kickstarter will do extremely well, and we will be able to do 100 to 200 armies right out of the gate. And by the way, that will be a thing the likes of which the world has not yet seen. That many forces in the same place. Oh, and there's other benefits, which I'll talk to you about that more later on. And just have that selection here. So, and this gets to the joy of it. Quite frankly, my joy is making studio armies. If I could do nothing except plan and execute studio armies, and then have enough demand to sell them and sustain my crew and my family and the community, that's what I would do. And I'm going for it. I'm putting it out there. I'm saying, if you believe in it, if this is what you would like to see happen, then you should step forward. You should be a part of this. And so, fringe benefits. So, think about this. What if there were a repository, and by the way, not a repository like they're stored and not used. No, they're all online. They're available for you to purchase. And if you go in the Kickstarter, what happens is we'll start making these armies to roll off the line, and you have, I guess, like a ticket, and you'll be like, ooh, I like that one. I'll take that one, please. Ta-da! And now we're even Stevens. And out of the deal, I was able to sustainably fund one other army that goes on the shelf. I don't have to sell it to pay the rent, which would defeat the purpose. There's a critical mass to all of this. And my prediction is the critical mass is 200 armies. I'll explain the numbers more about that later. So explain the numbers, critical mass. Okay, okay, benefits. Now think about that. You guys like my bat reps? Do you like bat reps? Did you come here for bat reps? Is that like, Sean, why are you telling us about your Kickstarter? Play a bat rep, gosh darn it. Well, wouldn't that be awesome if I had 200 armies to use in bat reps? Be like, I want Eldar versus Necrons. And here we go. Fantastic. And that is where we're going. I've already decided that I'm doing this. So Either it'll be with the Kickstarter sooner, or it will be with the momentum of the business later on. Oh, and by the way, I have credentials. I have survived in the deep jungle for 9 years. Brutal. Do not think that I don't have jagged scars on the inside from all of this. That's right, I'm jaded and cynical. So, okay. So we talked about fringe benefits. Oh, that's the other thing. Miniwargaming.com, we had them out to Valhalla, another awesome thing that we're doing. They came out and we started brainstorming. We spent about 2 hours in the hot tub, and that was awesome. It was Worthy Painting, me, and the 2 guys from Mini Wargaming, Matt and Dave. And it occurred, it hit us that what they needed was what we have. It was like vice versa. It was the perfect arrangement. They had their promotions guys actually painting armies, and slowly, so they could use them in bat reps. And I was like, I've got like 10 armies just sitting here. Why don't I send you the armies, and they can have those on hand. So all of you other companies, you should make arrangements with us, because then there's the bat reps. Oh man, what you could do with that. That's absolutely fantastic. It's a huge benefit to the wargaming community, would be to have the first ever repository of massed armies. We have a pretty humble goal right now of about 40,000 after we, after we fulfill our obligations to the Kickstarter. I'm not sure exactly how many armies that's going to be. It typically, okay, let's talk numbers. There is like every business, we create something, we mark it up, and then we sell it for a profit, and then we use the profit to expand the business, improve the community, personal enjoyment, and it also goes to, no, I think those are pretty much the 3 things. So anyway, it takes depending on the army type, takes between $300 to $900 actual cash out to create an army from scratch. And hold on a second. All right, so it takes, and you know what? How do I explain this? If you want an army and you want it to be done, a finished product, there's no way around the cost for that. Like just the models for a 2,000 point Warhammer Fantasy army is going to run you 500 to 800 retail, right? And then there are limits. It takes X amount of labor to produce the rest of it. And then there's other stuff too. If you're a legitimate business, you've got workman's comp, you've got insurance, you have security, you have state and federal unemployment insurance funds that need to be funded. So this all ties into the community. All these things, well, anyway, let's not get into that. So it's right off the rails. What? Is this funny?
How long is this video?
It's going to be as long as it takes. As long as it takes.
4 hours.
Rob, you don't mind, do you?
I didn't hear what you said.
All right, he didn't hear what I said. All right, you may mock now, but when my Kickstarter goes viral, then they won't laugh. So anyway, yeah, change how things are done. What was I even talking about? Oh yeah, that there's an X amount of cost to actually get these done. So there's an issue of sustainability here, and that's what I'm imagining in my mind. I'm imagining 200 armies neatly tucked away and labeled, ready to go, and we can do specialty reports on them. We can do a thing where we take you through the design process. I'm not promising any of this. I'm just saying it's a logical extension of what we're doing. And well, that would be such a great benefit to the community, to the wargaming community, is to be able to see these things being done. And because with that many, you'd have a certain amount of sell-through, and then you would decide, well, what armies do we want to do and have in our stock of armies. So anyway, I was going to talk about critical mass. So for Warhammer 40K, so that's the big one. Let's start with that. There are approximately 13 races. There's about 20 if you count all the miscellaneous stuff like from Imperial armor and whatnot. But so let's say for the 13 basic ones, we want to do 3 armies each. So that way you would have a selection. So let's say you were like, so let's say there was this person, this segment of the population which exists, which is the person that wants to get into the hobby or wants to play a different army, but they know they're never going to assemble and paint it themselves, and they would prefer just to buy it already done. But right now there's really not anywhere to go that's reliable for that, or that has a selection. So they would go to our web store, they would find the X amount of armies. So if we had 40 of them done, an average of 3 per race, they'd choose Necrons, and they would see 3 Necron armies. Isn't that fantastic? That doesn't exist anywhere. And why would it be better to buy from us than from an individual or the current repository, which is eBay? Well, because of follow-up. Now there's a company who first off, they made the army with some intelligence and planning. And they also, there's follow-up. We're a company that creates armies, and so if you need an expansion, so let's say you go, you know what, I need these 3 vehicles. I need 2 more or 4 more of these units of troops. Now you go to our custom department, you set up your order, and you have it done to match. And we already know how it's done because we created the army to begin with. Isn't that lovely? I just love that whole scenario. So that's critical mass. So let's say, here's how I would divide it up. I do about 60 40K armies, meaning that there would be about an average of selection of 4 armies per, am I on, right? About 4 armies per race. Some would have 2, some would have 6. Then Warhammer Fantasy, average of 3 armies per race. So that would be another, I'm going to say 50 if we did some of the extra oddball stuff like Chaos Dwarfs, for example. And so, yes. Yeah, I'm ready. Rob just came up and he said, asked if I had mentioned that other companies are concerned that players drop off the face of the earth. They burn out because they never get around to painting and assembling their figures. So yeah, in our Kickstarter video, I think we call ourselves the saviors of the miniature wargaming industry. That's tongue-in-cheek, but there is something to it, which is that the industry is hurt by the collection of miniatures in the garage that never gets painted. And now the guy wants to get into another game and his significant other says, well, you haven't even painted the stuff that you've already got. So the industry will, mathematically, the industry will choke itself out if it continues on this path. What'll happen is there'll be this fewer and fewer sort of elite group of people that actually assembles and paints their own miniatures. And you see that at a game shop. Go to a game shop, how many people have their stuff painted up? It's very few. So anyway, with critical mass, so we're at 110 armies so far. And then we would do about 40 for War Machine Hordes, so that's 150. And then the other 50 would be scattered throughout the other games, probably 1 or 2 armies per faction for the major games that... and we would take requests. If there was demand, we would do the different armies. So right now we're looking at Drop Zone Commander, Infinity, Heavy Gear Mercs, Weird, which is Malifaux, and I think those are the big ones. Those are the big ones. And so and we haven't just been sitting on our hands. We've gotten started on this. Rob, how many pre-made Infinity armies do we have? He's got his headphones in. Do you know how many? I don't know. It's like maybe 6. So that's what we want. We want you to be able to, hold on a second. All right, let's talk about turnaround time. That's really a commonly asked question. How long is it going to take to get my models done? Our typical turnaround is 3 to 6 weeks. It's highly unusual for a project to take more than 12 weeks. which is extremely good for this industry. Most of the time, the 3 to 6 weeks that it usually takes, is spent acquiring the models, which is why I encourage clients to have them sent directly to the studio, and that allows us to leap into action and just get it done. But you know what the best turnaround time is? The best turnaround time is you check our web store and you find an army that's already done. That's a turnaround time of 0. How's that? And we also currently have a Kickstarter going so that we can vastly increase the number of armies, models, collections, factions, and war bands that we have on hand, because we do want that turnaround time to be 0. We want you to be on the table playing games with an army that you will have pride and satisfaction to show off to your friends. So again, remember, relax and let go of your cares and worries. That's what we're here for. We're here to take care of all the difficulties between buying your models and actually getting them painted on the table. So by all means, check the link. That will give you a lot more information and also give you a bulleted point type format for all the things that I just talked about. Thank you very much. I just have to say that every time someone sets a project up with us, it is an honor and a privilege to share our lives and our skills and our talents with you. Thank you very much.